All right, thank you for tuning in to Permission Granted. I've got a special guest of mine. I actually taught this young lady to drive.
And he survived.
I survived, and anyway, this is the lovely Rebecca, and we used to babysit her back in the day. Mm-hmm. Just a cool story with that. Her parents are good friends of mine. We grew up doing ministry together, and they took off from our church, sent by the power of the Holy Spirit and the call of God, and they have done an awesome work in a foreign land. And so I'm pleased that Rebecca's here to tell her version of that, being a child growing up in that, what it was like. And so Rebecca, thanks for being with us. And just tell us a little bit what it was like growing up in a missionary-minded home. What are some of your memories of that?
Some of my earliest memories is walking around in a foreign country and
how old were you when that? What do you remember?
I was 3 when we left
Wow.
the States, and just meeting a lot of different people, but also where we started out with a humanitarian business organization.
Endeavor, yeah.
I was the only kid, so at a young age, I learned how to help pack a container, how to file papers, how to put the letters in the correct pigeonholes.
You were a part of the team, huh?
Definitely. I was never excluded. I was always included. Whatever ministry we were doing, I was there. There was always home church, home groups in our house, and I just live a part of it, and to me, that is normal.
Yeah. Did you ever resent it? Did you ever feel like you wish you were back in another place? Or
when I was young, we moved from one country to the next.
She's so old now.
And when I was 9, we changed countries. So when I was 3, we left the States. When I was 9, we changed to another country.
Right.
And I went from being Miss Popular, Miss Social, to having to learn how to entertain myself and be by myself. So I did resent that part a little bit, but
we had language barrier, and you were in the school system.
Yeah, language barrier. I was homeschooled, which is very different than going to school with all the other kids.
Right.
But I did resent it for a bit. But my parents, being amazing, they asked me, if you are not happy still in this X amount of time, we will give up the call and we will go back home to America.
Wow.
So I had this dilemma of deciding and having the deciding vote, and I'm like, I talked with Jesus, and I'm like, I would be a horrible person if I was to keep my parents from fulfilling the call and all these people not knowing about you, and they all go to hell. Like, this is my 9-year-old mind going and thinking, I don't want people to go to hell because of me. So we stayed, and I was there for 7 years. No, 8 years. 8 years. I was 9. Sorry, 9 years. I was there for 9 years before I graduated high school and my own journey began.
Wow. So you're 9 years old, and your parents take a step of faith really and say, we want to honor your feelings. Mm. And you say you talked to Jesus as a 9-year-old. Do you remember that conversation?
Very clearly, yeah.
Can you tell us about it, or is it personal?
Oh,
was there lightning and thunder? Was there earthquake?
No, it was just, he asked, will you give like the being social, having a lot of friends, and your comforts up? Will you give it up for these people to know me? And I said yes. Mm. Well, also, I didn't want to be a horrible person. All of them go to hell, and I have to live with that guilt.
Good idea, Gabby. Sorry.
Rebecca. We can edit the Gabby.
Yeah, and kind of, he was also saying, like...
There's tears in the room right now, just so you guys know. Listen to this.
We never knew that conversation.
Like, when when he asks you to give something up, he will give back tenfold.
Okay.
And yeah, he will.
Wow. You got a lot of friends now, do you?
Yes, and they're all close to my age. I grew up with I was 6, and then the closest people were young adults when they were 18 or something.
Yeah.
But now I actually have friends that are closer to my age, like 8 years under, closer to my age, and it's been wonderful actually getting to know people that are my age.
So God met your desire
Yeah.
exceedingly abundantly when you just simply said yes to Him.
Yes.
Well, there you go. I'm done with this today, Phil. That's so good.
That's amazing.
No, I want to hear
I
that.
love it.
Darling.
That's really precious. Thanks for
First
sharing
time
that,
I've heard
Rebecca.
It's the first time we've actually had your conversation with Jesus. We're so incredibly proud of you.
Yeah, very good.
I've always been proud of you, Goose.
And I always have too, Rebecca.
Oh, what? You don't know who the Goose is.
No.
This is Top Gun, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's Top Gun.
Top Gun.
Okay,
And
so
who gave her the name Goose?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's a whole nother
that
story,
would be me.
folks.
That would be me.
That's not
So you're 9 years old. You have this conversation with Jesus. You say yes to that, and then you're totally involved in the ministry. I mean, I was there. I always forget, half a dozen times, watching you grow. I remember us leaving a meeting early and going and getting ice cream.
Yes.
And but just being in the midst of it, and to me, I've always felt like I was with family. Well, you guys were family to us anyway. But beyond that, you had built a family, and everybody had their part to play. What are some of your memories of that family? What were you seeing happen there?
I saw a lot of people being loved by my parents, and where we were, parental affection. It was never a lot of positive parental affection. It was always in the culture we were
Among the culture you were in,
among
yeah.
the culture.
Right.
Those people experienced negative parental affection, and it came with a lot of strings. But then my parents arrived, and it was just giving freely, and I ended up with a bunch of brothers and sisters, and it was wonderful, especially being so young. And my sister had arrived at that time, but still, just having so many older siblings look out for you and always being there to play or have fun in some sort of way, kind of
Right.
like your kids were when we would come here.
Right. Right. So you were. What were some of the things you did when you were there? You remember? I know you worked. You worked with kids there a lot.
We did. I would help with organizing the games, organizing the prizes, as well as doing some translating for those who visited us from the States or other countries who would come help out for a short term. And even the simplest things. I grew up, I had lazy eye, and there was this kid at the orphanage. He had lazy eye too, but he was too scared to come out with his eye patch on because all the kids teased him. So I would end up wearing my eye patch to the orphanage, and he would come out and he would play. And there'd just be two of us walking around with one eye.
A couple of pirates. Arr!
Yeah. Yeah, but it was fun. And then during some ministry times, I would go to the women's meeting with my mother. So when people are falling down, slain in the spirit, I'd be passing out blankets and tissues and even being involved in it so far as giving words and praying for people.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Good memories there, huh?
Oh, yeah.
And can I interject?
Sure. You can.
Goose, or
Yeah, that's fine.
Rebecca, what's her name? Rebecca, she has a very prophetic unction, and she has dreams and visions, and she played a crucial part in the ministry because she often had dreams, and they were warning dreams for us as a family, as a ministry.
Oh, yeah.
And she also had prophetic words for the people that we met, not only in the church but out the church. And she also taught. So she taught the word
Yeah.
to the church.
So you really got an education.
Yep, I was
Hands-on.
surprised. As my
Hands-on.
mom told me, okay, you're teaching tonight. I'm like, wait, what? And then that's how I knew I was doing the sermons. I was like, okay, fine.
Well, I remember when I'd visit, I'd always hear, oh, he's upstairs reading the Bible.
Rebecca is, yeah.
Rebecca is upstairs reading the Bible. Goose. Okay, so Rebecca, you go through this awesome experience, 9-year-old, you transition, you're ministering with your folks, and then you get the call to go with YWAM.
Not actually. I wanted to go to university. I had no interest in being a missionary. I was like, okay, God, I did what you wanted. I am done.
It's my turn.
It's my turn. It's time for what we want. Time for what Goose wants. So
Rebecca.
Yeah, Goose Rebecca. And I did a short stint in university and then dropped out. It wasn't for me. Too big of change from homeschooling, close-knit family to being on my own and going to school with all these kids. So I ended up doing a DTS, which is an acronym for a discipleship training school through Youth with a Mission. And what you learn in a discipleship training school is you learn about the character and nature of God. You learn about intercession and evangelism, and also like forgiveness, the Father heart of God, and those similar topics. And you do that for about 3 months. You learn it in a classroom with a bunch of other students, and then you have a 3 months outreach or missions trip to wherever, and you're applying that to your life. You're teaching it to others and how they can apply it. It was not something I imagined I'd do, but apparently my grandparents, they knew it was for me, but they knew I wouldn't be listening to what anyone else had to say. Right. But yeah, and I was like, okay, God, what's next? And then he wanted me to do a art course, so something to do with art. And I'm like, I do not want to go back to university to study art. So God was like, well, look up online and see what YWAM, that's short for Youth with a Mission, has with art. So I looked up, and they had a 6-month art school in Australia, Perth, and that's how I went to Perth. Now, I had gone through a huge transition from being home with my family to university, and then from university to DTS. And my heart was searching for home, for a place to belong, because I was trying to find my own thing. I finally made my faith my own, and wasn't just hanging on to the ride on my parents' coattails, like in their relationship with God. It's like finally making it my own, finally making the missionary life my own, and finally getting a personal passion for being a missionary.
I love that, personal passion.
Yeah, because it's easy to kind of like catch it from other people who are on fire, but when you're by yourself and you're responsible for continuing to kindle it and all that, it's very different and hard.
Yeah.
So that's how I arrived in Perth, and I
Was
did
it the fulfillment of it, because you gave up so much, and you said earlier God has blessed you. Was this been part of the blessing?
It has been part of the blessing. I got to be with a lot of young people my age. Even there's some people who were like a lot older than me. They were married, they had kids. Some people were single, some people were dating, some were engaged. But it was finally being able to spread my own wings and step out of my parents' shadow in a way, and just grow into my own. A word I remember being spoken over me is that, yes, you're going to be a missionary, but it's going to look very different from your parents. It's going to become your own, and how your parents do missions isn't necessarily how you would do. You will do missions. And that's been true. It's looked very different. My parents started up their own nonprofit organization and are under leadership and elders. And me, I joined an organization, and I'm already existing, already has structure and leadership and all that. And I joined that. And well, long story short, I was 17 when I graduated high school. I was 18 when I did my DTS. I'm now 26, so I've been doing YWAM in a missionary lifestyle for 8 years now, if my math's correct. I'm horrible at math, so you can do it yourself.
Sounds like all your life you've been doing missionary. Since you were 3, you hit the road.
That's true. Even
Yeah.
before I was born, I was hoping to smuggle Bibles in, but that's another story. So missions is all I've known my entire life, and I couldn't imagine a more interesting life than having missions.
Awesome.
I've been ruined for the normal. Normal is they has their own things, yes, but it's a bit boring for me.
Just think, you could have been a normal kid playing video games at home all day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Or you could travel the world and meet new friends and
Yeah, get
Live
to
on the
know
edge.
different cultures and.
yeah.
But yes, I've been in YWAM doing, growing and maturing and coming into a leadership of my own, and like
Yes.
learning how to lead people, how to disciple, how to mentor people. And that's been really challenging, because then I realized what bad habits, what faults do I have, because I don't want to make a bunch of mini-me's. I want them to grow better than me. And I was like,
Wow.
oh my goodness, it makes you grow when you're just taking care of yourself and growing and maturing your faith. You're focusing on yourself,
Making your own
focusing on yourself.
decisions.
Yes,
Yeah, all that.
it's like, okay, this is good. But then once you realize how all of that really affects and starts to shape, and when you're mentoring people, it's like, drats, I gotta shape up some more. I gotta get rid of this and that, change this.
Yeah.
But it's a good experience, and I still have a year commitment left, but I know I'll probably be renewing my commitment to continue
Wow.
with YWAM. And I
Awesome.
wouldn't be surprised if I'm still there till I'm 30 or over.
Well, Rebecca, I'll just say this, that I'm very proud of you as your official uncle.
Yes.
And I'm just standing amazed at this mature young woman in the Lord that you've become. And you're still that little girl I remember, but yet you're a woman. So, and you've grown up to be an awesome lady. God bless you.
Thank you.
Alrighty.